Truckie Tuesday is up next, and it's all made possible thanks to GME, the Aussie experts in communication tech for over 65 years. 10-4, good buddies. Whether you're passing vital road info onto the convoy, calling out a hazard ahead, or telling old mate to get off Channel 40 because it ain't a bloody karaoke bar, GME's got the gear to keep your connection steady and crystal clear. Truckie Tuesday is straight ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Truckie Tuesday. It is Truckie Tuesday 132. And the king of the Kenworth, Rod Hannifey, joins us, and the millennial is in the background today. We can hear her, but we can't see her because she hasn't done her hair or put her lippy on. That's what I'm tipping, Rod Hannifey. Good morning to you.
Good morning, mate. How are you?
I'm very, very well. You're at your home base in Dubbo.
I am, mate. Yes. Had a short week this week due to casino. Ended up getting home early, but I got a service done yesterday. That's really good. Made a couple of little pieces, got a few little jobs sorted out, rang a couple of people and annoyed them. And at this stage, I'm loading on Sunday to go back to sunny Queensland.
Rod, a little postmortem on our trip to casino. I found it extremely rewarding. And I've got to say this, if you remember 10 years ago when you contacted me on Triple M and said, listen, do you have any idea how many truckies listen to you around Australia? And they don't all like Slim Dusty. They do like a bit of Cold Chisel and Jimmy Barnes and Led Zeppelin. And we started our friendship, and it is now a friendship. We feel you're part of our family. But I was absolutely, and I think the millennial was too, I was overwhelmed at the warmth and the welcoming we were given at casino. So many truckies and truckettes and their wives and their partners and their kids coming up, shaking our hands, asking me to sign merchandise and things. I mean, I was overwhelmed, Rod. I wasn't prepared. It was amazing, wasn't it?
It certainly was, mate. And as I've said over time, it's the one place that we, as truck drivers who do this life all the time, get to sort of mingle with the public. Now, you would have seen a lot of blokes there still polishing and scrubbing. They've spent weeks preparing. And they've given up their day or their week, some of them, to be there and take part. And it is a recognition of that effort, but it's also to show the public that we are human. The town got right behind it as well. And it's those one time where you get to say good day to a mate and maybe have a beer and, outside of the, Jesus, I've got to go and be there type of thing. So, look, it's congratulations to the organisers. It was an incredible event. The Friday Night Lights, they said, went off really well, and they're going to keep that going now. So, look, and congratulations to the blokes that put hundreds and hundreds of hours into having the trucks ready.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you very much to Richmond Valley Council. Vaughan McDonald, their general manager, we were his guests at his lovely home, which is just out of town. I know we can't see you today, Millennial, but what impressed you the most about it?
Just how many trucks they were able to coordinate parking. I don't know what angle degree it is, but yeah, watching them all back into their spots without a hitch was pretty incredible. I don't know how you maneuver vehicles that large with such precision. Like it's captivating to watch.
They should do it for a living. And I got to say this, what about Kelsey? What about the time and dedication they all put into polishing up and having their trucks ready to be on show? Unbelievable.
I don't understand,
and they didn't all have somebody pick on them and say, look at that stone chip on the front of your bull bar.
That was disgraceful.
Did they,
Rod?
Kelsey?
That was disgraceful.
Well, what I was going to say is, I don't understand. Are these trucks used? Because obviously, Rod, you use your truck quite a lot. And so is it just these trucks have like different coatings on them, which makes them not get stone chips? Or like, how do these trucks not have stone chips on them like your truck has stone chips on them? Because like, you know what I mean? They must keep them in like a bloody air hanger somewhere, because how do they like, you know what I mean? How do they stay so pristine?
Do they drive around Australia coated in bubble wrap? Yes, I'm with you, Kelsey. What's the story there, Rod?
There's probably three sides to it, mate. Some of them are show trucks. Some of them have just spent the last week off the road where 10 blokes have gone over them with fine-tooth combs and buffed them and cleaned them and tidied them and hidden all those little imperfections. Some of them are trucks that were finished work a week ago or 2 days before, and they're still reasonably new. So, mine's done 925,000 kilometres. It has a plastic coating on the bull bar to protect the paint, but once the stones hit the plastic coating, and again, I'm just trying to think, there was a couple of older trucks there which you probably wouldn't have looked at as closely. But
I saw the silver bullet.
you look at the
I
front,
saw the silver bullet was grey. I saw that.
No, mate, that's the grey Ghost.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. And look, in those days, mate, they were silver bullets, believe you me. That they did 90 mile an hour, those things. But look, that was also completely rebuilt from the ground up. So it's all been newly painted and everything like that. So, again, you look at a truck that's 4 or 5 years old and you look at the front of it. Now, if it's a bonneted truck, they tend to have nice bits of stainless around the headlights so you don't get stone chips there. They've got a big chrome grille. Yes, you might get stone chips, but you don't see them. A cab over, because you have that big square section at the front, and that's where most of the stones hit, it's noticeable and you can't get rid of it. Look, some of those blokes might have had a new bull bar. They would have had a bloke with polish for 2 days. And if you go and look, Luke, you'll see there are blokes that do, full-time polishing. And they sit down, they sand them, they buff them, and they bring it up. Now, because mine's painted, I can't do that. And then you see those imperfections in the paint where the stones come from. So, look, there are horses for courses and there are trucks for roads. And some of those would have been show trucks. The purple and white one, like that's built for show, not for delivering freight. The Grey Ghost was a ground-up restoration and a magnificent job. And that's sort of one of the first Kenworths. That model was one of the first Kenworths built in Australia. So, look, there is a difference in a bloke turning up there having just driven from Cairns and a bloke who's had to truck off the road for a week to make it look like it's brand new.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we've got some trucking news to get to in a sec, including the big news, not just of the week, probably the biggest news in the trucking world of the year, and that is the logistics giant ACFS being placed into administration. We'll get to that in just a second because we're talking about the possible loss of over 1,500 jobs. And ACFS Logistics, well, God, they move and manage shipping containers, rail terminals, warehouses, but they also look after brands like Coles and Kmart and Bunnings. I mean, it's a huge, huge company that's got itself into $60 million worth of tax trouble. We'll talk about that and we'll have some comments from our legal eagle, Belinda Hughes from Hughes Law, including her win of the week. That's coming up. But first of all, let's go to some listener feedback. This is Darren. Hi, Luke. I just found this in my videos from 6 years ago when I was doing full-time interstate. Thought you may like to watch it. To this day, I still think it was my lucky day to get out of this with not even a scratch on the truck or the trailers. At the time, I was in a K200 as a B-double fridge vans fully loaded to 68.5 tonne. I love your videos and your interviews. You do. Thanks for keeping me company over the years. Much appreciated. All righty. Just before Kelsey plays the video, what's a K200?
Same as mine.
Right. I'm glad I asked.
Exactly the
Thank you,
same
Rod.
truck, K200 Kenworth, yeah.
See, I knew that. Kelsey knew that. Fergo knew that.
Well,
Okay, let's have a look at the video. This is from Darren. Just call it, Rod. What are we watching?
You've got the caravan in front. You've got a truck with a rigid trailer beside him. And I don't know why the truck in the right lane's going slower than the B double. There must be something up in front. Maybe he's seen an issue there. There was a roadwork sign or something on the left we just passed. So, the caravan's moved over. Yeah, and old mate's just stopped in the middle of the road.
Holy
it's not a caravan. It's a rigid. I can just see the back of it properly now. Yeah, so that car's just stopped in the middle of the lane. Whether the bloke in the right-hand lane sort of stayed back because he saw it way up in front, but because that rigid was in front of Darren in the B-double, he didn't see it until he virtually moved over and left him nowhere to go. So he managed to get round there pretty close. I wonder whether he actually hit the Armco. So you saw that sign on the left, and he's just moved over there. And then, of course, all he's got is the room between the car and the Armco. And it looks as though he might have got through without hitting it. He still had a lane there, so he might have done it right. But yes, you don't really go reefing B-doubles ridiculously sharply. You've got to sort of manage it by just turning enough to miss the car and get through the gap without tipping the thing over.
Rod, you were telling us a story at casino about the stress and concentration needed to drive. And you were talking about If I get it wrong, please tell me. You will. Was it a triple B double? A triple double?
No, triple road train.
Triple road train. And you said if you move your steering wheel a fraction, the last trailer can move 3 metres. Explain. The way you told the story was scary.
Yeah. So, B doubles, even if you watch, and I've got to say, Luke, I followed a B double down the road the other day and he was swinging all over the road. And I don't know what his problem was at the time, because generally B doubles track really well. And we've talked before about the 2 types of couplings. So an A coupling is using a ring feeder on the back of one trailer and a converter dolly, which is virtually a chassis with an A-frame and a turntable on it. And then you put another trailer on the top of that, the same as you would hook up to the turntable on the back of a prime mover. Now, a B coupling is that type of coupling used in a B double, where the back trailer virtually sits on the back half of the front trailer. Now, that's more dynamically stable, and that's why B doubles generally have a very good safety record. And yet I recall a certain radio announcer keeps saying to me, geez, Rod, there's another B double crash. What happened there? And that's because there's probably 80% of the road transport fleet now are B doubles. But
they were rolling over. There was a time there, Rod, where we kept hearing, once a week, we kept hearing about a B double going over on its side. That I remember that.
Yes, and there still is, Luke. And I've got to say, after the casino show, I travelled up the Pacific Highway during the day and I could see 4 separate spots. And it seemed to me that every single one of them was at the end of a straight, where instead of where the road's gone round to the left, but the truck hasn't, and they've gone straight ahead off the end of the straight through the centre. And that scares all of us to death. But look, with a triple road train, you've got a truck and trailer, a dolly, another trailer and another dolly. So you've virtually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of articulation. And if you steer the truck savagely at the front, it's a multiplying effect. It does happen on a B double to a small degree if you're stupid enough. But if you do it with a triple road train, you move the steering wheel, like less than a quarter turn, and the back trailer can move up to a metre sideways, depending on the road and the shoulder. And look, that can lead to the back one tipping over if you take it off the edge and it grabs the edge and flips over. So it's something where, unless you've done it, people talk about it, unless you see one coming towards you, then you've got to rely on the skill of both the driver coming towards you, that he's not going to do the wrong thing. But it does depend on the road. The road can grab it, whip it out and whip it back. Look, there's still a combination that is effective in Australia. We operate the largest road registered vehicles anywhere in the world. No one else does triples at 53 or 6 metres that I'm aware of, or 60 metres in the WA. And look, they do the job perfectly here. But the blokes that drive them have to have skills. And there are blokes that can back doubles and triples, Luke. I'm not that good. But, you've done it long enough, they learn how to do it. And watching the skill of those blokes hooking up a triple road train, that's incredible, because you are talking about minuscule movements at the front, even when you're backing them up. Because the dolly is very short compared to the trailer, you move the steering wheel an inch and the dolly will turn 2 feet.
Okay.
Once you sort of go back a bit further. So that's something you ought to have a look on some videos, Luke, and come back and see what you think.
Just in my mind, you know what's happening? It's a bit like when you crack a long whip. You might move the handle this much.
That's exactly what it is.
But the tail end goes that bang. Is it kind of like that?
It is kind of like that, not to that extreme. And look, you will see some videos even of the quads in WA, which have got slightly improved couplings to improve that dynamic stability. But you'll see some videos of quads where a bloke's gone flick and the back trailer's, following him down the road on its side. So they can be a scary thing. That there is certainly talk of having a second class of MC license. So let's really stir the pot, Luke. Currently, we have a HC license, gives you the ability to drive a semi-trailer. That's an articulated vehicle. Now, technically, if you've got a heavy rigid license, you can drive a truck and dog, which is still articulated, but it's not exactly the same. Then you have an MC, multi-combination license. Now, that covers everything above a semi. So B double, type 1 road train, which is 2 trailers, type 2 road train, which is up to 3 or 4 trailers, depending on configuration. And people are saying, if you get a bloke and he goes from the eastern states and he's driven his B double up and down the eastern seaboard, he goes over to WA to drive quads, and there should be a separate license class. Now, if you owned a quad, Luke, so you've got your, probably $700,000 tri-drive Kenworth on the front, and you've got 4 tipping trailers with 3 dollies. The thing's worth probably near $2 million. Are you just going to say, Oh, Rod, mate, you can drive road trains? Yeah, Luke, it's all good, mate. I'm off. Away you go. Yeah, head off to the mine, mate. It's 500 kilometres that way. Have a good day. Now, if you're stupid enough to do that and let that bloke go, and he tips it over on the first corner, well, who's the one at fault? The driver lied, but you let him have a go.
Yes.
And again, it doesn't matter whether he has an MC1 licence or an MC2 and he's driven road trains somewhere else. If you take him on his word and put him in $2 million worth of gear and he tips it over, you're the one at fault. The driver is too, obviously. But I don't think having another class, which will mean a higher cost to get that licence, more testing, more cost to get drivers into the industry, and we know where that leads. And I don't think that simply having, the same as we've said, mate, having an MC licence doesn't make you a fully qualified B-double driver. So I don't honestly think that a separate licence class for quads is going to help. I think it's going to add cost, and it's up to the people that employ them to check whether you've got one or the other or not.
I'm going to get on to ACFS and the tax dramas facing this huge logistics organisation in a sec. But I just wanted to mention something. Roland, who's a contributor, sent us a story that he wanted to bring to our attention. After spending 44 years behind the wheel, veteran truck driver Peter Miles thought he had a few more years left in the industry. That was before reading about Australia's tougher heavy vehicle penalties in a Yahoo News Australia Facebook post. The 65-year-old said the new rules and hefty penalties played a part in walking away from truck driving. Commenting on the story, Peter wrote, 44 years in transport, finished up last week. These rules were a deciding factor for me doing so. Rod, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I've had so many people say it, Luke, and yes, we will be completely honest and upfront. 21 penalties have been reduced by, let's say, 10 or 15%. They should never have been that high in the first place. If you look at Belinda's comparison on her webpage, you'll see that our penalties are far higher than any other road-related incident. Yes, 50 penalties have gone up, and not by 10 or 15%, some by probably 150%, so way more than doubled.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you look at those penalties, and yes, to those who will say it only applies to repeat offenders and it is the maximum court-imposed fine, that does transfer to what happens. You normally get 10% on the road, so the fact they've gone up means that those on-road penalties will go up. The fact is they're affected by CPI, so they will continue to increase every year, and now that they've been more than doubled, that increase will be more each year. That's a flow-on effect. And again, within a week of having these penalties announced and discussed, I had 3 people ring me. They were not recalcitrant and repeat and axe murderers that had killed 7 people in the last 2 years. They were blokes that have spent 40 years on the road and got a couple of fines or penalties. You wouldn't think that's really bad in our level of exposure we've discussed. And yet they were threatened with these major fines. We were scaring the shit out of them because they wonder what happens when they get pulled up and they've made a simple mistake. Or, as Belinda says, you get caught for one. You think, oh, I'm not going to fight that. I haven't got time, can't afford it. You get another one 6 months later. Oh, look, you've got 2 and 6 offences. You're a bad bloke. We've got to, run you into the ground and scare the bejesus out of you. And she said, mate, she had people there, business operators. So there is a multiplier for a business owner. And they were virtually in tears when she got them off. And they'd spent weeks and weeks wondering what happens when you go to court. Now, if that's not a level of stress that hangs on a driver's shoulders all that time he's on the road, I don't know what is, Luke.
Very, very good point. And we'll have Belinda Hughes from Hughes Law on shortly. She's had a big win of the week. Now, Rod, we posted a clip from our last chat and comments about roundabouts.
Yes.
And apparently, Rocket Rod, we've ruffled some feathers. Gavin said, have to respectfully disagree somewhat with old mate. Is that you, Rod?
I think so.
Because you're slightly older, mate, than I am.
Yes.
I spent 36 years in the TPT industry as a driver. If you have to lock everything up, you haven't anticipated the situation well enough. My years in fuel tankers taught me to let them all go, let them win. I used to sit in the slow lane all day watching everyone break their necks to get around everyone else. End result is you don't elevate your blood pressure. You don't need to introduce added risk to the job. just my 2 cents.
He's saying that there's two sides to it. One, he sat in the slow lane, let everybody get round him normally, and some roundabouts have 2 lanes, Luke. And generally we move into the centre of the 2, right?
Yeah.
But look, he's got a fair point. But the thing is, you come up to a roundabout, and that's exactly what you do. You anticipate the situation. You look at the other 3 roads, plus you've got to look behind you to make sure some dipstick's not trying to come underneath you while you're going through the roundabout. So you've got to look at 4 separate things. So the bloke coming the other way, you see him. The bloke on your left, yep, he's pretty right. He's back a bit. The bloke on the right, he's 200 metres back from the roundabout. I'm approaching, I'm slowing. But 1 time out of 10, others will say it's a lot more, you will see the car on the right actually lift at the front where he's put the boot into it so that he gets to the roundabout before you. Now, we know that there are some imbeciles out there that like to play with trucks. We know there are some imbeciles that like to brake check us, and some of them think it's a great deal of fun. I'm going to beat the truck into the roundabout. Now, he's going to have to stop. Now, we plan, as he said, to go through the roundabout. So if I see 3 cars, I judge when they're all going to get there, and my aim is to fill a gap and to roll through without stopping. I save my brakes.
If you've got 2 trailers on, you take the 2 lanes. It takes your truck 2 lanes to negotiate a roundabout. Yeah.
And that's why we have a sign on the back that says,
do not overtake turning vehicle.
And that is law. That's not just Rod putting a sign on the back to keep wankers out from underneath me wheels. But I'm still watching 3 others, Luke. So you anticipate it. You think, if I slow a bit more, he'll be gone and I can go in, because you don't want to have to stop and then pull 68.5 tonne of B-double off from a deck.
You know, a UHF isn't just an accessory. It's a lifeline. It's exactly why I'm stoked to have GME on the Bonafide podcast. They're the only Australian manufacturer of UHF CB radios and emergency beacons, operating right out of a purpose-built HQ in Sydney. You want to know how many locals they keep in steady work? 250. And the gear they build doesn't just keep the Bonafide family safe on the road. It's engineered specifically to handle the bull dust, the corrugations, and the longest hauls you can throw at it. If you love Truckie Tuesday, back the brand that backs us. Head over to gme.net.au. That's gme.net.au. Links are in the description. Let's get back to the chat.
Not every time, look, 1 in 5, somebody will accelerate and try and beat you, and then you have to decide, do I keep going and allow him to plough into the side of me, or do I lock everything up? Was an exaggeration, yes. I'm not locking everything up, but I am coming to a fairly quick stop because he's sped up to take away that space I thought I could fit into. Then you've got to worry about the blokes behind you, whether they're actually watching you or him, because you had to come to a stop. And that's it. You decide. Do I keep going and fight him for it because I would have been there, or do you let him run into you? Now, he's got a valid point. You sit back, let the others be dickheads. That's better.
Anyone who is in the roundabout has right of way. If someone's inside that roundabout, they have right of way. Let me ask you a question, Rod, and for people who don't drive trucks, but we all negotiate them, but driving around the cities, you've got to negotiate buses, public transport. Now, same thing with roundabouts. But if you are going past a truck or a bus and they're on your left, and then when you're about halfway past them, they then decide to put their right indicator on. If you are halfway or more to the front of that vehicle, do you have right of way, or can that truck or bus just pull out and hit you?
No. So that's where the right of way rule does apply. So you're talking about a 2-lane situation,
correct?
Where the truck is in the left,
or a bus is
pulling
out from a stop. Now, with buses, they
have their own sign that says you must give way to them.
Yep.
You have a look on the back of a bus; they've got a sign that says you must give way to the bus. Right,
yep.
So they're a bit different.
Even if they've got their left indicator on, and you get halfway past them, and they put their right indicator on, the bus still has right of way.
You're supposed to let them out. Yes, that's the law.
All right. Yeah.
But look, so because that car is on my right and I am going to merge into his lane, I have to give way to him. If he's halfway up the trailer, I should wait and allow the car to pass. But then half the time, Luke, by the time you wait for him to pass, the next car has seen you with your indicator on, ready to move over, and they speed up so you can't get over as well.
Okay,
so the next comment...
Carl. Carl, they continue to put roundabouts on our major truck routes. So if I can get my bull bar onto the roundabout before you, it's mine, unless you are bigger than me.
Well, and we'd like to think that we do not play I'm bigger than you, therefore I have right of way. You'd like to think that's not the case. Some do, but, people in four-wheel drives do that over cars. And your other mate who said simultaneous entries are a curse, though, who has right of way in that case. And that's where the car has sped up. They've seen you coming. I'll put the boot in so I get over the line and I'm in there first and I have right away. So, look, if everybody did the let's be a thanker instead of a wanker, and thought, let's share the road. The other one's there. What am I going to lose? I'm going to lose 2 seconds here. If I stay at this speed, let the truck roll through. I'm in a car. I'm only 2 ton. I'll just roll up a little bit slower. And look, you come back to defensive driving. We've spoken of it so often, Luke. Mm-hmm. Now, you get into traffic and you can tell who's done a defensive driving course. The one single biggest factor is someone who's in a hurry, is coming up to the red light. They're on the brakes at the last minute. The car's standing on its nose. The light changed. They've got the boot into it. They're roaring 60 feet to the next red light. The defensive driver is on. It doesn't even touch the brakes 200 metres before the red light, and he will generally, if he can, roll through when the light changes green with the traffic without touching the brakes, doesn't need to accelerate. And look, we've all done it with our own children. Why are you accelerating up to a red light? Well, I want to get there. Yeah. Why are you now have to stand on the brakes because the light's still red and you're wearing your car out and you're wasting fuel? And they're just in a hurry to get nowhere some of the time, Luke. You know that.
Well, I've got to be honest. I coast up to lights. And yes, I think what's the point? I'm wasting fuel. If the light up ahead is red or I know it's about to go to red, why would I be putting my foot on the accelerator wasting fuel? But I don't want to get brake dust on my rims and my red calipers. I'm really easy on my brakes. But yeah, you're right. Lee said, please put the question out there about U-turns and watch people come back with all sorts of bizarre answers. Rod.
Yes, New South Wales, a lot of intersections are signed that you can do a U-turn. If it's not signed that you can do a U-turn, it's illegal in New South Wales. Now, look, I don't have a perfect knowledge of every other state. I see there it says there that some of the South Australian drivers are saying the rules are different. Don't know, don't care. I don't do a lot of U-turns in B-doubles. I will say, and I think there's probably not a B-double driver out there who hasn't gone somewhere one day and gone, oh, shit, this is not really where I want to be. Can't go around the block. I think I can get away with a U-turn here safely, and most manage to achieve it if they've got a little bit of skill. Some don't. Some get caught on islands and block traffic and have to have 4 goes. So, look, we've done it when we've been somewhere we shouldn't have been. If you do it sensibly, and that's probably the biggest thing with anything, isn't it, Luke? Like, you can have a look at the situation and think, I will wait for a break in the traffic, I can do a U-turn. But look, people that do them in the wrong place, and look, I only saw a video yesterday came up, and I'm fairly certain it was the Coonabarabran dog trap gully pads where there's a car on the left and a truck's come along and the car's just done a U-turn straight in front of the truck. And look, I've got to say there was an accident announced on the radio probably about 3 years ago. 2 people were killed in a car, and again they'd gone past the Mendooran turnoff and thought, oh goodness me, we were supposed to turn left back there. We'll just do a U-turn without looking at the truck coming down the hill the other way at 100 kilometres an hour, and they both died. So for goodness sake, if you can't see properly, wait till you can, and don't just think because you do a U-turn that there's no one else in the way that's going to run over you.
I was always of the impression in New South Wales that obviously no U-turn where it's signposted, no U-turn. You can't do a U-turn over double yellow lines. And you can't do a U-turn at traffic lights. Now, I don't know whether I'm right or not. That's what I've always believed.
The traffic lights is correct. In the law, it says you can't do a U-turn at traffic lights unless it is signed that you can. And you will see a sign that says U-turns permitted at traffic lights. Yeah, right. So that gives you the permission to do it. If that sign's not there, you can't. Yeah. But in New South Wales, you can turn right over double lines into a property.
Yes, I know that.
So if you've got a farm, But in
I know
Queensland,
that.
technically, my understanding is you can't turn right over double lines at all. But again, that was back then when I had a Queensland licence.
No, I know you can turn right over double yellow lines if you're turning into a driveway, a property.
Yep.
But no, I'm getting back to U-turns. You
Don't know
cannot.
about U-turns.
I was under the impression you cannot do a U-turn over double yellow lines. I'm going to have to check up.
We'll have to look at the law.
We'll look at the law. Speaking of the law, Belinda Hughes coming up soon. Now, let's have a talk about the biggest news story, not just of the week, but I think in 2026. And I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on this, Rod, and the feedback that you're getting on the radio. The radio, thanks to GME. Do you like that?
I do very well. Good segue.
Thank you. ACFS. ACFS, folks, is one of Australia's largest trucking and container logistics operations. And they've been placed into administration by specialist lender ScotPac. Now, I know that they had a court appearance last Friday, and we'll hear during the week where they're at with all of this, because they have a reported tax debt of almost $60 million, according to the Australian Financial Review. Salia Advisory has been appointed administrator of ACFS Port Logistics. When was that? Last Thursday. Now, we're talking about an operator that moves and manages shipping containers between ports, rail terminals, warehouses for large retail and industrial brands like Coles and Kmart and Bunnings, and the list goes on. We're talking about the possibility of losing 1,500 jobs, maybe even more. Now, couple of questions. How does a company find itself with a $60 million tax bill? Those people that have been like they may be losing their jobs, and I hope it doesn't happen. I'm hoping, Rod, that the ATO would say, look, we want our money. Let's come up with a payment plan. Let's get you back on track. I'm pretty sure that's the way it will work, unless there's been negligence and criminal activity, and we'll assume that that's not the case. Let's hope not. Rod, ACFS, huge news. What's the latest?
So, mate, many years ago, we had the Glenn Sterl inquiry into a safe and viable road transport industry. Now, Arthur, I believe Arthur is the son. His dad started the company. He turned up at that inquiry, and he spoke very passionately about the fact that in his business, and that's container transport, that he would go and buy a new B-double set, and yet some bloke would turn around and buy a 2-ton Isuzu and a $50 trailer and undercut him. There was a lot of concern, even now within the container industry, about people getting paid box rate, Luke. So
Yep.
You understand hourly rate, that's very simple. You start work at 8, you get paid until you finish work. Box rate is, I will give you $100 to pick up that container and deliver it from here to there. Now, you go to the wharf, back in the day, Luke, there is now time slotting. There are actually penalties if you fail to turn up for your time slot. So you say, yes, I'm going to pick up container 1, 2, 3 at 9:30, and you don't get there till 10, you've missed your slot, they fine you for it. And the shipping companies have a lot to do with this, Luke. They have enormous power over the ports. And virtually, many years ago, I worked in the container park, and you'd go down there and you could sit there for 2 and 3 hours to deliver or pick one up because they were busy or there was a ship in or something else happened. So Arthur complained at the time that he'd set up a business, he paid his drivers the correct wages, he looked after his gear, and yet he was being undercut by every bloke that could buy a second-hand truck and cart boxes for a box rate. And look, the fact that at times they have done blitzes, NHVR have gone to the ports and done blitzes and found blokes with, no brakes and ball tyres and all this stuff, and they're the ones he's competing with. So that's just a bit of background. I'm not saying that he's perfect or exempt, but he raised that issue, that'd be 5 or 6 years ago, Luke. So my understanding is, from what I read in Big Rigs as well, it's not just the ATO. He has debts to others, and they thought they had it all solved. They were going to get the ATO thing fixed and before they went to court, but now there are others in that loop. And look, as you say, I wonder how it's going to go, whether he can refinance it and get it set up. There's a lot of jobs involved. Those containers still have to be moved, Luke. Somebody is going to have to do them. There are a number of other companies in that space that do similar things, but he's covered pretty much most of the eastern seaboard. I think he also has a finger in New Zealand, was it, that he's involved there?
Think so, yep.
So you're talking about a big business. We will eventually learn, I suppose, what happened, whether there's something internal that's gone astray, whether it's those outside factors plus others that have brought it to this point. But I suppose at the moment, mate, all we can do is sit back and watch and learn and hope that it doesn't happen to others.
Let's hope so, and let's hope it's resolved, because we're talking about a lot of jobs and a lot of innocent people who have just been washed away with this, Rod.
Yes, that's always the concern, mate. And of course, with the government legislation, you would hope that they will get their entitlements should the company be found unable to pay. But that means that you and I and every other person in Australia is paying for that as well. So, there should be something in place that if they are found to be responsible, they're held to account. But you and I know that the law doesn't always work that way.
I would like very much to hear from anyone in the trucking industry that's affected by this. Could you please send us an email or leave us a voice message? You can be completely anonymous. We won't mention your name if you don't want us to. 0291289311. How has this a catastrophe happened, and how is it affecting you, your livelihood and your family? The ACFS in external administration. And what have you heard? Please pass it on so that we can report on it. Let's have a look at what's happening in the courtroom with Belinda Hughes from Hughes Law. It's time for the Hughes Law Win of the Week. Belinda Hughes is with us once again on her way to netball today. Last time she was actually in the car at netball, but she's on her way to netball. Welcome back to the Bonafide podcast. Hughes Law, this amazing lawyer, 18 years experience, was a police officer, a prosecutor, was a prosecutor with the NHVR. Somebody said at the Casino Truck Show she was on the dark side. And now she's turned to the right side. And you've had a very productive week in court, and it was all about negotiations. Belinda Hughes, tell us about it.
Yeah, Luke, it was a really strong week, and I think it's a really good example of how it's not just always one in court. Sometimes it's one before court. And
Right.
In this case, so yesterday I went up to court and spoke to the prosecutor for about half an hour before court. We had subpoenaed, so that's a legal process to get documents from different places. And the police were alleging that my client was a cancelled driver. So
Right.
the license had been cancelled after he'd been disqualified. But we were able to get paperwork from Transport for New South Wales that the police did not have. And that actually showed that he was not a cancelled driver, but a refused driver.
What's that? What's the difference?
So refused is where he's finished his disqualification period and then he's gone into Service New South Wales and made an application for a new licence. And then based on his history, Transport have decided to refuse his licence application. But it's a very important difference because it's a different status. It's either you're cancelled, or once you've made the new application, that cancellation falls away and he becomes refused. So they had
Right.
the incorrect defence. It's all about timing. We don't want to tell them when they have time to lay a new offence. So we advise them on the morning of court before the hearing. And so the only thing that they can do is withdraw the charge. So my client was very, very happy.
That's a great result, Hughes Law. And how many cases can be brought to mediation and resolved before you actually have to go into a court? Does that happen often?
Look, it's not a formal mediation. What it is a constant process of negotiation with the prosecution.
Yeah.
I always think it's the best way, and it's the best way to get a really great outcome. So, for example, a trucking company, they were facing 37 charges with a maximum, I just wrote the maximum down for you, Luke, so that I had the right numbers, $2.54 million worth of penalties. Now, just through negotiation, that is, what about this charge and can we pull this charge into that? And I don't think you've got the evidence for this. And just constant back and forth emails and negotiation. We brought that down to 8 charges with a maximum penalty of $549.
Oh, wow. That's a great result. So Hughes Law, you just type in, go to Google, Hughes Law, and there it all is. There's the history of you, the firm, what you do. It says 95% success rate. That is phenomenal. If there are people listening that need help or they know of someone that needs help, please go to Hughes Law, the defence lawyer who understands the criminal law system from all angles. There you go.
I like that, Luke.
Hey, listen, well, no, I got it off your website. Hey, just quickly, the we've talked about this earlier with Rod Hannifey, the ACFS liquidation. We're talking about 1,500 jobs, and we're talking about what is allegedly a $60 million tax bill. That is frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's something I'm seeing the ATO is really cracking down on companies at the moment.
Right.
And if you've got a company debt, they're laying claim against the directors personally.
Yes.
It's a really difficult time, I think, for industry where they've got, I'm seeing the NHVR clamp down on accreditation. I'm seeing ATO clamp down in relation to tax. And a lot of my clients are getting statements of claim in relation to toll debts.
Right.
Perhaps they had not been paying some of their bills while they're trying to deal with.
Or they're trying to trade out of a bad cash flow situation, and they'll go, we'll work it out. And, of course, there's no statute of limitations on tax. And now we've got 1,500 jobs in jeopardy. Hopefully that can be sorted out. What would your advice be to a trucking company, or indeed an individual that's having problems with meeting their tax bills?
Don't ignore it. So definitely get on the front foot. Try and negotiate a payment plan that isn't formalised, because when the clients are coming to me, they've already entered into a deed or they've entered into some type of formal arrangement. So it's really hard to work backwards.
Yeah.
If you can negotiate early, they want their money. They all want their money. But if you show them a way that they can get their money in a type of payment plan, then they'll largely accept that.
So be upfront. See Hughes Law. Hey, listen, good luck at the netball.
Thanks, Luke. See ya.
Interesting stuff that from Belinda there, her last words on the ATO, really jumping on top of owner drivers and the trucking companies. But she's quite right, isn't she, Rod? If you are in trouble, fess up, come up with a payment plan, go to the ATO and say, I'm in trouble, I need your help.
Sticking your head in the sand has never been an effective cure for a problem, Luke. They are reasonable people if you go to them early enough. And then, of course, people think, I might get through. I'm hoping, praying for intervention.
Not with the ATO.
It generally doesn't happen.
And as I said to Belinda, there's no statute of limitations on tax. It sits with you forever. So if you've got a problem, please get help. And if you've got legal problems, see Hughes Law. Rocket Rob, you've got a question of the week and you'd like a response. Listen to this, folks.
So I have been speaking with the new CEO of the NHVR, Nicole. She's agreed to come and do a trip in a truck.
Oh, good.
I've got to say that the first comment after we sort of made contact was that she would like to see if what they perceive to be happening is what's really happening. And I give her absolute credit for making the effort to come and see it from our point of view. I will have a list of questions for her. And in preparing that list, I've spoken to our head mechanic. He's got a couple of questions. I'll get a couple from some of our other drivers. But the one thing that I honestly think now, the NHVR has certain limitations. It enforces the laws given to it. It does not write the laws. We can't blame them for that. It is not responsible for building rest areas, but we would seek their support to go to government to say we want drivers to be able to comply. Now, they have done a little bit about educating motorists in sharing road with trucks. I honestly believe there should be something in the licensing process, whether it's videos that we did funded by NHVR for our top 10 tips, whether it's a list of things that they ask more questions, because currently in your 100 questions, there's only 2 about trucks. That's not enough. So I'm going to ask Nicole that would the industry, if they sought support from the NHVR to push the states. Now, me ringing every state in Australia, Luke, it's like, you asking John Laws, would he buy you a bottle of wild turkey once he finishes laughing? At the moment, of course, he's going to have a hard time doing that.
Well, that would have to be during a séance, but keep going.
Yes. And I'm sure you'd love to have a séance with John. But anyway, as an aside to that, the NHVR does hold sufficient sway. I would like to think they could go to the states and say, here with these figures, that more than 70% of fatal accidents between cars and trucks are the fault of the car driver. Do you not see there is avenues there to decrease that amount to save lives on the road? And will you support it? Now, the factor behind that, I want drivers to sit down and think for 30 seconds, what is the biggest single factor affecting their personal safety on the road. Now, yes, road might contribute to a crash. You might get told you've got to be there for a deadline, and we know they can't force you to do that. You might have a mechanical defect in a truck, but considering the miles we do, that's not the most prolific cause. It is one. But I honestly believe it's the other people we share the road with. I think they're the biggest personal factor in my safety on the road. And I've said to you, I watch cars coming towards me to see what they're doing. Again, there was a video came up the other day where a car swerved in front of a truck in America, and the bloke's gone off the road. The trailer was up on its side, and he's kept it on its wheels, mate. He did a terrific job. And so I ask drivers, what is the biggest single factor affecting your personal safety on the road? And if we get enough comment, if we get people that come up with something, I'm quite prepared to put that on my list to Nicole and ask, will the NHVR support us in making our jobs and the roads safer for everyone that uses them?
So please give us your thoughts. What is the biggest factor affecting your safety on the roads? Send your thoughts to community@bonafidepod.com or leave us a voicemail on 0291289311. And remember to subscribe and listen to us and watch us on whatever app it is that you are watching or listening on, and share and tell everybody about it. Truckie Tuesday, over and out. Good to see you, Rod Hannifey. I'm glad to see that you're in Dubbo with your family, and safe travelling. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you to GME, and thank you very much to Hughes Law. Rod, where are you off to next? Where's Destination Hannifey?
Well, mate, just one other little follow-up. You had David Littleproud on, and he was going to contact me. I never heard from David personally, but I heard back from his office. And I then approached the local member, Anne Leahy. She's the state member for Dalby with all those culverts going through there. And she said, well, I know that you'll be shocked at this, Luke, but she blamed the previous government for not fixing the road. The fact that she's there now and she hasn't fixed it either is a bit of a cop-out as far as I'm concerned. That's only my view. She did say, and then she said, I see that TMR have responded. And TMR said, oh, yeah, we know about it, but there's no plans to fix it, stiff shit. And look, that's a very cynical view. But in the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple other mates ring where they have actually had something fixed because they rang up and explained a problem.
There it is.
And the more we do it, the better it works. So, mate, I'm off tomorrow. I've got to go and load and head back up to Brisbane. I won't get there till probably Monday afternoon. I wish everybody out there safe travelling. And again, congratulations to all the winners from Casino. And thank you very much for the time we spent there to all involved.
Yes, absolutely. Rod Hannifey and another Truckie Tuesday. Please contribute. Let us know what it is you'd like us to discuss, because without you, it's just not worth it.
It's not trucking.
Without you, it's just not trucking. Well, that's it. A big, massive cheer for the folk at GME. Thank you for keeping the Aussie transport industry talking. It's engineered specifically to handle the bull dust, the corrugations, and the longest hauls you can throw at it. Head over to gme.net.au. That's gme.net.au. Links are in the description, and we'll see you next week.